I'm Neil Dunnavant, Executive Pastor at First Presbyterian Church in Greensboro. I'm here today up at our family farm in Patrick County, Virginia, in the little village of Claudeville, about 10 miles northeast of Mount Airy, North Carolina. This is a farm where my wife Kate's mother, Helen Wood, grew up on. The house was built in the late 20s. It was built of wood all off of the farm, and it was built by my wife's grandfather, John Clark, to woo his wife to marry him. So he built this house, and then they got married, and Kate's mother was born in 1934 and lived here until she went off to college. And she remembers when the electrification people came in to electrify the house. Even Kate remembers when there was no running water or bathroom in the house. And now the house is got all the modern conveniences, and we love coming up here. So I'm going to do a brief introduction around the house real quick, and then I'm going to be going around the property and doing some short inspirational videos about some biblical themes from farm life, like pastures, fields, cattle, springs, rivers, things like that, with a short Bible verse from the King James. So we'll be starting this right now. This is the view from the front of the house here. I'm just going to do a little quick 360 so you can get a sense. This is the old house that I mentioned, built in the late 20s. And then there's a lot of forest land down here to this side. There's a big, beautiful hay field in the back, and a barn. And there's a place to store the hay, and a place where we keep our wood, and some old sheds that have been here for a very long time. And this is essentially what the property looks like from here, though there's a lot more to see, so stay tuned. One of my favorite places on our farm is this special little spot where I like to come down and sit and just listen to the water. It's where at least 4 different springs come together to form this little place. And the trail we call Watermelon Creek Trail because when Kate's mother was a little girl, they had a little spot where they would take their watermelons and put it down into the spring water to keep it cool before you had refrigerators. And there's another spring over there. It looks like there might be some watercress growing. And then eventually it all comes together and forms a nice little creek and trundles down into some nice waterfalls where it goes into a bigger creek, and then right into the Dan River, not too far from here. So springs have always been fascinating to me. I think the animals like it down here. There's a lot of wildlife, and we often hear coyotes at night howling down here. I think they come down here to drink the spring water. The Bible verse for this spot is about hills and springs from Deuteronomy 8:7. For the Lord thy God bringeth thee into a good land, a land of brooks of water, of fountains and depths, that spring out of valleys and hills. The majority of this 400-plus acre farm is in forests, though we're very fortunate to have pastures, fields, and cropland as well. This is in one of the many forests. There's a lot of rhododendron here, a lot of laurel, a lot of hardwood trees, and several giant white pines that grow as the largest trees on the property. And up above from here are some more pastures. So the text for the forests, it comes from Psalm 104, verse 20. Thou makest darkness, and it is night, wherein all the beasts of the forest do creep forth. We're now down at what we call the bottomland. This is one of our fields. It's now planted in winter wheat, but it'll be in corn in the summer. And this is our gator that we like to ride around in. And the Dan River is right here. I'm going to take you to a much more beautiful spot on the Dan, but it's flowing through here. And so on both sides of this road, called Hatcher's Chapel Road, we have big fields on either side of here. And this field sometimes is planted in pumpkins, perhaps occasionally in cabbages. There are a lot of cabbages grown in this area, but mostly has been recently corn. And the Bible verse for the fields comes from Deuteronomy 32:13. He made him ride on the high places of the earth, that he might eat the increase of the fields. And he made him to suck honey out of the rock, and olive oil out of the flinty rock. So now we're down here on the Dan River. This is my favorite spot on the river. It was completely overgrown, and until recently I didn't even know it existed until I put in a lot of work getting it cleared down to the river. And we also own these forests up in here on the other side. The river goes on down and flows into North Carolina very shortly from here. It looks like it would be a fantastic fishing river, but it turns out we're a little unlucky here because the water's just a little too cool for being a great smallmouth bass stream and a little too warm for being a good trout stream, though over the years I've caught a trout or two, and I've caught a couple here in this very spot. Also on the bank, there's some interesting things growing right now. This is a trout lily, and then you'll see up on the bank there are lots of these May apples coming up everywhere. That's what a May apple looks like up close. So we also in the summer enjoy kayaking down this river. You'll see I've got to get out into the stream with my saws to clear some space, because as the storms move in, there's trees come down and it blocks our way on our kayaks. But the kayaking is really a lot of fun here in the warm months. So here we are on the Dan River, and the text for the rivers is Isaiah 48:18. Oh, that thou had hearkened to my commandments, then had thy peace been like a river, and thy righteousness like the waves of the sea. Now I've taken you to another favorite spot of mine, Archie's Creek. And we own quite a bit of property along this creek, and it goes this way into the Dan River. And I like coming down here where it's sandy and check out what kind of prints animals have been down here. You can tell there's a deer, and obviously a raccoon has been down here looking for something to eat. And now I've got on my high rubber boots. We're going to cross this creek, and I want to take you up into this field, which is my favorite field on the property. So it goes this way, and then it goes down through here. Right now it's being used to cut hay for the cows to eat the hay in the winter months. So this is the day the Lord has made, and let us rejoice and be glad in it. Here we are now at the top of the main pasture, and you can see the house down there and our pond and some of the cattle. We don't take care of these cattle. Some local gentlemen take care of these cattle, and they usually have 30 or 40, and there's usually lots of babies too. But the cattle are a big part of this farm and the history of this farm. But in years gone by, when Kate's grandfather was alive and farming, there was tobacco planted on these steep hills. And Kate's grandfather, John Clark, actually farmed this land until he was 90 years old, 90, and tragically died of a tractor accident, cutting some grass on one of these steep hillsides, and the tractor rolled over on him and he died. The verse for cattle is Genesis 1:24. And God said, "Let the earth bring forth the living creatures after his kind, cattle and creeping things, and beasts of the earth after their kind." And it was so. Okay, that's it for today. I'm going to wrap it up. There's some of the babies down there and the watering station. And while I'm goofing around shooting these videos, Kate's over there digging holes, planting something beside the pond, probably a little tree. So I hope you all enjoyed this little tour of the farm with some Bible verses, and hopefully it was something inspirational for these difficult times we're in right now. Blessings to you all.